we talking about long distance relationships tonight, and a lot of times when we think about long distance partners, a lot of times we forget to remember that there's still people because you got to maintain those lines of communication and keep them open. But do you think long distance relationships are worth it? You know, is there are there any positives? And in many cases, how do you break through some of the negatives? Do they work? Let's tackle that tonight. What do you think?
I think they do. It's definitely worth it if you're with someone who's potentially a good partner, a good match. So it depends on the person, but
Depends
it
on the
can,
person.
yes, it depends on the couples, depends on what they're looking for and what their needs are. But there can be success in it, just like in any, traditional relationship. It can. It really depends.
Okay. All right. Tequila or Toka?
Yeah, I would follow it up with, well, first, I've never been in a long distance relationship, so I really don't know. I think it could work if both parties wanted to work, but um, just my honest opinion, I don't think it I don't think it'll work on the man part simply because of, how he's made up. He's visual. He probably would be the one who want to like see his woman more often. So, and by being long distance, I think that might, it might pose some challenges in that relationship. So it could work, and then I don't know.
But isn't that a good thing if he wants to see his woman more?
Yeah, it is a good thing. It is.
Okay. Okay. Toka, what do you
Um,
think?
I I don't think that it will work long term. I think there has to be a goal where people are gonna come together and you're gonna move to, one another's cities. I don't think that it's something that you should be in for a long period of time. I mean, if it starts off that way, it's different. And long distance relationship is like, well, how many times we're gonna see each other and speak to each other? Like there needs to be like a lot of communication as far as how many times we're gonna speak on the phone, how many times we're gonna see each other a month. I don't think it's something where you can just, speak to somebody like once a day or once a week and it not be any like FaceTime and, at least visiting every weekend.
Now, isn't that you talk about visiting every weekend? Is that monetarily, financially could that be financially too much of a strain to keep
It,
it up? Because
it
I
can
mean, you talking about
Well, it can be. That's why, I'm saying that that shouldn't be that shouldn't be like something that's done for a long period of time. There should be a goal where someone's going to move to the other person's city or state. It shouldn't be.
what's what's an ideal timetable? How long should somebody date long distance before you say, all right, we gotta close the gap here, or we gotta shut the door on it?
Well, I think depending on the individual, it depends because if it's a person that's not sleeping with another person until they're married, then that might happen quicker than the normal relationship. I think, but 6 months to a year, I really don't think that you should wait a year doing a long distance relationship, but 6 months to a year.
Okay, what do you think, Jules and Tequila? How long should it somebody's in a long distance relationship? How long, they say, all right, we've been dating this far distance long enough. We're gonna have to close the gap. Somebody gonna have to move someplace.
I don't really recommend it. I mean, like, I'm just speaking from my standpoint. I wouldn't do it simply because, see, long distance, it goes against my love language. I need quality time, right?
Hmm.
So I wouldn't date someone in a long distance relationship. Now, if someone is in that long distance relationship, I don't like to put pressure on people. So if that conversation comes up, that's something both parties have to come to a conclusion, around. I don't want to say 6 months. I don't want to say 8 or 12. They have to decide. They got to really decide, because that's a big step. You asking for this person to leave their state to come and live with you. That's a big step, you know. So that's something you have to be ready for. And if you have children, you got to prepare the kids for that. So that's something you can't really put a time limit on. You got to be really ready for that move.
True, true. Jules, what you think?
When it comes to long distance relationship, I wouldn't encourage it if you don't know the person and say you just met them online. I would think that you'd need to meet up. You know, there has to be some sort of physical meeting just to, see who the person is. If it's a case where you've met briefly, or you know who the person is, or you worked together before and circumstances caused you to separate, whether it be for work or just circumstances, then I can understand that, and I think it's doable. I wouldn't put a time frame on the meetup time, though. I really think it depends on the individual couples. It depends on their level of maturity and what is their purpose in the relationship. If we're talking about couples who need to sleep with each other first, then for them, I don't think it would work. Because if we're speaking about people who do not believe in not having sex before marriage, then for them it may be an issue. But if we are speaking to people, especially Christians, who are not having sex, then it would be easier to have a relationship with someone long distance. Now I'll explain this. And you, Dr. Eddie, you did raise a point in, I think it was one of your books or something you had said. You said that the pandemic, last year, 2020, taught the world how to touch a person without touching a person.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what would keep that relationship together. As long as there is communication there, as long as you are able to communicate with your partner, whether more or less, depending on the need of the individual, then it will be able to sustain the relationship. If you're able to check in on that person, whether you're states apart or even countries apart, because that has happened. Some people are in relationships, even marriages, and their partner is in another country, and there's still success. And if we think about a married person, of course, obviously a married person would need to have their physical needs met. But I've heard, of married couples, they take advantage of not social media, technology. So they figure out ways to be creative, in order to stay together and to ensure that their spouse needs are being met. However, I'm
Listen. Let me cut in here on this. One of the statistics says that the number of married Americans who live apart from their spouse rose from, here it is, roughly 2.7 million in the year 2000 to currently 3.9 million. I can't believe that many spouses are living that far apart from each other, number one. Rose from 2.7 million in 2000 to currently 3.9 million, where married couples are living apart. How in the world do you make a marriage last like that? Much less, you talk about the dating dynamic. Now you bring in the married dynamic to that. Would couples rather just live apart and try to get along than be in the same house and there could possibly be hell and havoc?
Exactly.
Has it come to that?
There's a lot of relationships. There's a lot of relationships that are like that, and they want to be that way because they're getting their needs met separately.
It doesn't mean that
Some,
everybody's 3.9 million folks cheating
I
on each
didn't
other.
say all 3.9 million. I'm saying a lot of them. Yes. Yep.
yeah, well, a lot of them are, but there are also successful couples who are miles apart, countries apart, and they're still being able to fulfill the need of their party, their spouse. So it is possible if the couple wanted to work, they can. You raised the point also that there are couples or married people who are living together and mentally and emotionally they're apart. They've already divorced emotionally, you know. Some people they can't stand to be with each other. So it depends on the individual couples and what their needs are and if they are fulfilling the needs of their spouse or their partner. But I would hope that they have a set time to meet up because at some point, you can't be away from each other for too long. I do not recommend that at all. And one thing I've heard from a married person, I've heard it from a wife, she said that it takes a lot of strength, because
Hmm.
she's in Jamaica and her husband is here in the States, and of course they communicate with each other often, but she said it takes a lot of strength. So you have to be very strong, mentally as well. You have to communicate with each other. You have to affirm to your partner, how much you love them and what you love about them, and just to remind them that you were there. You just have to learn how to be there, even without not physically being there. And again, the pandemic has taught us that, or it should have taught us how to be there for a person, even when you're physically not able to.
Absolutely. Um, to Tequila's point, let me go to Tequila's point. You said, you know what? I'm totally against this thing. Don't give me no long distance relationship. It ain't happening with me. Now I talked about in my academy tonight. I mentioned the whole aspect that shout out to Genuine Leo. Thank you so much, Shanette, for the badge tonight. Y'all can put a badge in the bucket. Um, I mentioned tonight in our academy, and if you're not part of the academy, you're playing yourself. Join the academy. A friend of mine, he lives here in America. He married a woman from Africa based on long distance dating. They met one time and then he proposed. But of course, they had a lot of conversations. As a matter of fact, this was old school. They did it on Skype. They communicate on Skype and WhatsApp. Not Zoom, Skype. I think they're 8 years plus strong now. So, what do you do if you're getting along better with somebody who's out of state or who's out of the country versus can't find nobody in your own city? What do you do? You getting along better with somebody who's out of state than you are in your own city. Can't get no love in your own city, but somebody want to show you love from another state or another country. What do you do? Do you go with a lover's eyes? It's the love for me.
Yeah, I guess so. Look, I guess so. I mean, like I said, it won't work for me. But I mean, if you're connecting with this individual on that level, they speaking your love language, y'all purpose lining up, um, and it seems like a good fit for you, then go for it, But I just know me, it just won't work. It would not work.
Are you leaving God out the details?
I might.
Yep.
So his
I
ways are
might.
not my ways.
Anything's possible with God.
Woo, I might. I just
Just
know
thinking
because,
that.
I mean, and then I'm not even gonna lie. Some of that is fear for me, because people can portray one thing. If you never met this person, that could be a complete stranger. Like they can be totally opposite what they, have portrayed themselves to be over the phone. So for me, it is a little fear, because I would not want to leave my home and go over there and it's something different. So
Right.
I guess I'm on the cautious side.
And that makes
Right,
sense
right.
too. It does make sense. And I think that's where trust comes in, especially in a marriage. Because, for example, you're in one country, they're in another country, or you're in one state, they're in another state. You don't know for sure what they're doing. So you really have to trust them. And if this is your purpose partner, then you will trust God that that person will remain faithful to you. And if they're not faithful to you, then your God will deal with them.
Mm,
You
that's
know?
good.
So that's how I would look at it, but I can definitely relate to why persons would be hesitant because it would be a perfect opportunity for that partner to cheat because, of course, you're not around, you don't know for sure what they're doing. But in the same breath, how do you know the person that you can see here? You're in the same state. You don't know if they're cheating,
And
you
that's
know?
right. And that's the thing. How do you, because a long distance relationship to a certain degree is like blind faith. How do you build fidelity? How do you build trust with somebody who you're not going to be able to see all the time?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's why what I was saying is besides, so the first part is that they both have to be, believers and followers of God. They both have
Mm-hmm.
to agree on, the intimacy level, like who, we're not sleeping together before marriage. They both have to be really some really special individuals to make a long distance relationship work, because in order for the relationship to grow, there has to be, chemistry. There has to be some type of physical touch. Not saying sexual, but you want that attention and affection. And how are you getting that if it's always on the phone? And even with FaceTime, like I was saying, it would have to be multiple times, a day that we're talking, or at least if it's not multiple times a day, we're FaceTiming every day. And then we have to make some type of arrangements to see each other, like on the weekends or something. So, if that's not an option, it wouldn't work for me either. Like Tequila said, like you know, I need my man right beside me.
And I'm gonna say something because, like you
Good.
stated, multiple times a day. Now, see, you do that to me, I might not like that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you have to really know, who you're dealing with, and what's reasonable for them, because I can't do multiple times a day. Maybe once a day. I will require once a day, but
Definitely,
not multiple.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, a boundary for you might be a burden to them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because you say, hey, you know what, that's a little bit too much because I'm about my business, I'm about my purpose, and you kind of encroaching a little bit on my space, even though you long distance,
Right.
And so, yeah, I think whether it's close quarters or whether it's long distance, healthy boundaries have to be in place, and somebody has to respect those healthy boundaries and not see them as intimidation or isolation. See it as a
Exactly.
bridge and not a wall,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can will a man trust his woman if he was dating her long distance? Because it's easy for women to, we easily trust for some of us, but can a man, will he trust his woman, believing that she is being loyal and faithful to him, even if they are, long distance?
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that he can grow into. Maybe of course, there's some ambivalence and some hesitation initially, but I think, routine helps to bring a level of trust. Because it's especially, I think, routine would have to be something for that with long distance. I hear from you a certain time. We text at a certain time, whatever the case may be.
So like predictability.
Yeah, predictability. And I think it's a building of it. I don't think it just emanates just immediately. I think it's a building of it through the conversation, through intentions, through words, because that's all you're gonna be able to rely on, really. Uh, through saying that you're gonna be someplace or do something, and you're actually doing that.
Yeah.
You know. Because it will be some checking up, no doubt about it. Let's just be real. Let's just be honest. We'll be checking up, snooping. You doing what you say you're doing without saying I'm saying that I'm saying. Are you doing what you say you're doing? You know. So, but I think somebody really needs to be on their purpose as well.
Right.
Really needs to be on their purpose. You know, idle time and long distance is not good.
Yeah.
I think whatever the case is, it should be temporary.
Yeah.
And I just feel like long distance relationship, it's unfortunate, but it cannot be helped for some people. As I said before, sometimes, you know, it's because of work, you know, maybe one person is in the military or circumstances happened or shutdowns, you know, COVID, all these different factors, you know, but it should be temporary. If you're both working on each other's dreams and goals and purpose, if you're not married yet, then it can be doable as long as there's healthy boundaries, as we mentioned before, and you also know, more importantly, what your partner's love language is. Not everyone needs to have that physical touch all the time. Not everyone needs that. So you have to know what the person wants, what their love language is. And because not everyone's needs are the same, you know, even though we all need some sort of attention, but to what extent? You don't
And we
want
talked
to
about that last time. Attention.
exactly. So you don't want to be overwhelming the person. You don't want to be too needy, because neediness can, you know, push the person away as well. And you don't want to be lacking in that area as well. So you have to have a healthy balance and really know your partner. Ask a lot of questions, you know. But on the plus side, it's really good, especially in the beginning stage, because you're able to learn the person's soul. You're able to learn their mind, their heart, who this person is. And it gives you an opportunity to put like the physicality on the back, you know, so that, and especially if you're someone of faith, you know, you're able to withhold the hidden treasure, you know, so as to really find out if this person is worthy. So it has its plus, but there should be some sort of goal, long-term goal. When are we going to be together? When are we going to meet up? But I would not
AKA when you proposing.
But leave that for the man to say. Like, nice.
Oh, what are we? As I said tonight, we are farmers.
Exactly. But I wasn't even getting there yet. I'm not even getting to the proposal stage yet, you know.
Okay.
But just getting to meet each other and spend time with each other, you know, that's also good and healthy. What's the other thing too? Yeah, it's a challenge. I feel it's a challenge for people, but it's doable. And if there is potential of finding a spouse who is long distance, I don't think it should be shunned aside, you know, because who knows, you know, maybe that's the person that God had for you, and at the right timing, He will bring the two together, you know.
Okay. I'll let y'all go on this one. When you think about, some folks wouldn't put $30 in a gas tank to go across town to see somebody. You live too far and you 35, 40 minutes away. Now you got to put $300 into a plane that you don't own for the fuel tank, much less the miles. 30 miles is too much, but 30,000 miles or 3,000 miles, you know, is it is it too far-fetched for it to work if you're doing that type of travel consistently? We're talking about the flying or the long distance driving.
For the right one, it's worth it.
I was just going to say that too.
For the right one, okay, it's worth it. You will put in that effort. You know, you would get up, you know, and travel, pay however much, because you see that person value, right? Exactly. It's worth it to you. You see how they add into your life versus subtracting from your life. So again, it goes back to, you know, just knowing who you are dealing with and if this is the right one or the wrong one.
For the right one, it's an investment. For the wrong one, it's expensive.
Hey.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I just feel like if it's a person that accepted their objective, then it's definitely a problem for them. But if it's someone who is looking for their purpose partner, then it's the sacrifice that they're willing to take and make. That's my take on it. So that's why it would be doable and it can be a success depending on what the needs are and if they're both like-minded.
All right. Toka, anything to say on that?
Same as what I said. Yeah, if the partner is worth it, then you'll do it. That'll be established pretty quickly, though.
All right. All right, ladies. We always appreciate your comments and your expertise on many of these topics as well. He say, she say. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.